Good morning, fellow Plexers, and I can only say that for the next minute and a half or so. Today's video will be short. It goes out to Michael in the Plexaholics group, and a video explanation is just easier to work with than trying to type everything out. So he posted in Plexaholics, I am looking for a mini PC Windows based that can do Plex server tone mapping. I've read that newer version of Plex can now do that on Windows computer. What mini PC do you recommend? Well, Windows cannot do that unless it's on newer hardware. So this article has been updated from Plex's support article list, HDR to SDR tone mapping, and if we slide down, we see their little chart. So we're concerned with the hardware on Intel and not hardware on NVIDIA. So if we look at this key, there's a 6 here, and if we slide down, it tells us that for Intel Newer Lake or newer, options will be available for saturation, contrast, and brightness. See pic below for more info. Now, Linux, Docker containers, which are also Linux, and direct install on NAS hardware, which is also Linux, are limited to both 1 and 2, which requires a Plex media server past this version or past, and requires a Kaby Lake or newer processor. So as long as you have a Tiger Lake or newer, you'll be all set. So I've just purchased a B-Link NUC that's arriving Monday evening that I want to do some test videos on. I assume it's an Alder Lake, which is newer than a Tiger Lake, but either way, even if it's the previous version of the N100 processor that's a Tiger Lake, if there is a Tiger Lake version of that processor, I should be able to enable hardware acceleration and tone mapping, which is when tone mapping is used, and force a transcode to keep the tone mapping, if that all makes sense. So let me bring in my current Plex server. Now all my media is on a Synology NAS. I know you don't want to see anything besides Windows, but this is just to illustrate the fact that my mobile version of an 11th gen i5 processor, the 1135G7 mobile processor, the Iris Xe iGPU in it, it's a Tiger Lake family CPU and iGPU. So when my new NUC comes in, I plan on some test transcoding videos, hardware accelerated transcoding. I'll throw a test Plex server on the default Windows NVMe drive that the unit comes with, and I can check it out then for you. I'm also going to do further test videos under Ubuntu with just a quick Plex server install, and then I plan on trying to learn how to use Proxmox on that NUC to set up a Plex server that points back to my storage on my Synology NAS. Now, I know you don't want to use Linux, but if you're only using a NUC for Plex, you can install Ubuntu 24.04. Normally, Linux installs for Plex servers are a pain right in the ass for a Windows-only user because you have to learn all about Linux permissions, and admittedly, that's nothing I want to play with as a long-term Linux user. Nor do I want to try to make a tutorial video that's going to work 100% for everybody watching because it's that much of a pain in the ass. But Ubuntu took the standard Linux Plex install, which is the same on any version of Linux. It's the same install inside a Docker container. It's the same application files on my Synology NAS or a QNAP NAS. When you install Plex as a package or the default option on a NAS, they're all the same Linux install, which makes it very portable. So under Ubuntu, for their special snap store, most Linux versions don't use Ubuntu snaps. They use other package managers or they use Flatpaks. Well, Ubuntu modified the regular Linux install to set the permissions for you. But unfortunately, I haven't found a way to move a Linux snap package install to another Linux distro. Like all the other ones are portable between different installs. But if you just care about simplicity and you're going to run just one easy to use OS on your new NUC, Ubuntu 24.04 is basically stupidly easy to install. It installs in about 5 to 10 minutes. Plex is easy to set up, and if you're using local storage on your boot drive or USB storage, there's not a single permission issue that gets in your way of seeing your media. So I do have a tutorial video if that new information changes things, but before too long I expect to have a video up, and I'll specifically check out the tone mapping with transcoded 4K streams on the new B-Link N100 based NUC that's going to arrive tomorrow evening. So Michael, I hope this is helpful, and happy Plexing.